Our rulers partitioned our continent about 100 years ago. And they taught us two things using the borders. They taught us about tariffs, and they taught us about visas. Now, whether you are talking about the British in Kenya, the French, Belgians, Portuguese, today, all of them are members of the European Union. 27 countries. They don't have tariffs. They don't have tariff amongst themselves, and they don't have visas. The only people left with tariffs and visas is us. And because they saw the folly of tariffs on trade and removed tariff on trade amongst themselves, today in Europe, intra-European trade is at 70%, while intra-Africa trade is at 15%. Good people, it is the reason why we must accelerate the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And unlock the potential that exists for African countries to trade amongst themselves. Working together is no longer an option. It is a necessary imperative. I agree with my brother that the choice is, are we going to float together or are we going to sink? So collaboration, working together, is no longer an option. We have visa regulations left, right, and center. 27 countries in Europe today, with 430 million people, removed visas. We still have visas. Let me persuade us that it is time we in this continent realize that having visa restrictions amongst ourselves is working against us. When people cannot travel, business people cannot travel, entrepreneurs cannot travel, we all become net losers. I am very happy that we are now moving in the direction of eliminating visas amongst ourselves. Let me say this. As Kenya, by the end of this year, no African will be required to have a visa to come to Kenya. And I am very proud that the intra-trade within the East African community is already at 27% because we have taken the deliberate decision to remove unnecessary tariffs and visa regulations. I am also very happy that my father here, President Sassou Nguesso, when he came to Kenya, we agreed that there will be no visa requirement between the between Kenya and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Brazzaville. I am also happy that last month, when we removed visa requirements for DRC, my brother, President Felix Tshisekedi, also removed visa requirements for Kenyans to DRC. Let me urge us that we need greater collaboration. Our children from this continent should not be locked in borders in Europe and also be locked in borders in Africa. As part of building the network that will ensure that we facilitate movement of people, goods and services within our continent, Kenya is going to open an embassy here in Congo-Brazzaville this year. It's going to open an embassy in Côte d'Ivoire. We are opening an embassy in Rabat in Morocco. We are opening an embassy in Eritrea, because it is time we realize the importance of trading amongst ourselves and allowing goods, services, people, ideas to move freely within our continent. And because of climate change, Africa this time round is not just a victim. In fact, Africa is not part of the problem. In fact, Africa is part of the solution. We are part of the solution because, number one, we have the largest 40% of all renewable energy resources globally is in our continent. We have 30% of all minerals resources globally, including the ones that are necessary and critical for the transition, for energy transition. Number three, we have 60% of the world's arable, uncultivated land. With smart agriculture, we can feed not just ourselves, but we can feed the globe. Number four, 25% of the world's population will be living here. We have the youngest population at the median age of 19. 40% of the world's workforce will be from this continent by 2100. And let me say this, we have the natural resources, including the carbon sinks, and therefore we are the continent that's going to provide the solution for climate change and the existential threat that the world faces. But we will not make progress unless we act in concert, unless we work together, unless we build the Africa Union as a fit-for-purpose vehicle to carry the aspirations of all our young people in this continent and everybody in this continent. It is important for us to join hands and build a global financial system and work together to reform the international financial architecture. We need new financing that is going to make the World Bank, the IMF, to give us concessional financing so that we don't have to pay 4 or 5 times more than others. A fair financial architecture that treats Africa like all other continents is not too much for us to ask. And therefore, it is very important that we work together in that space. And let me finalize by saying that includes the Pan-African payment and settlement system, which makes it possible for us in this continent to trade in our local currencies without having to look for this currency or that currency. Let me ask you, good people, what Afreximbank is doing to promote trade in our continent is something all of us leaders must support. I am saying this with a lot of passion because we have an opportunity of a lifetime to change the fortunes of our continent, of our people, and especially of our young people, using this challenge we have, which we must turn into an opportunity. We must support the Hinga Dam here in DRC because it can give power to 12 countries in our continent. Renewable energy. We must never and we must not continue to export our minerals raw. We must process all our minerals here in Africa. We cannot continue. It is the only way we can create jobs for our young people. It is the only way we can turn the potential of our resources into opportunity, and it's the only way we can commercialize all the activities that we have. Mr. President, we value the fact that you have given us a platform to discuss the most urgent, most important aspects of our continent here in Congo-Brazzaville. And we don't take this opportunity for granted. We want to say thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. And thank you very much to all who have come. Thank you very much. God bless you. Our hosts, the 227 million people who share the world's second largest river, are custodians of 268 million hectares of forest, which constitute 70% of Africa's forest cover and hosts 10% of the world's biodiversity. These nations and peoples are already making a major contribution to the vitality of our planet and the well-being of humanity. The 1.3 billion indigenous people from the three river basins, majority of whom are young, live in intimate proximity with 26% of the world's biodiversity and 1.4 billion hectares of forest, and 3 of the world's greatest rivers and river systems. These unique ecosystems are also our planet's lungs, which capture 1.2 billion tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere every year, saving lives on Earth from catastrophic global warming and the buildup of greenhouse gas emissions. I recognize the place, role, power, and potential of the three basin biodiversity ecosystems and tropical forests in defining the future of local, regional, and global efforts to manage the triple planetary crisis that confront humanity. They also have the potential to set humanity upon a new path of economic transformation through ecologically responsible production and consumption. Although this role has always been prominent, never has it been as clear and urgent as it is today. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has documented in its most recent consecutive reports that unless we take aggressive measures to protect our forests, the world will not be able to actualize the 1.5 degree centigrade target as agreed in Paris Summit, even if other efforts in transforming the economic and industrial systems of the developed countries are sustained. This cautionary indication reinforces the need to urgently reverse the obvious gross injustice. Although Africa has 40% of the world's renewable energy resources, the continent only received 2% of the 3 trillion renewable energy investments made over the past decade. That is the injustice I'm talking about. The trend is consistent across the global south, given that we host the 3 basins of biodiversity ecosystems and tropical forests.
We are developing a Team Europe initiative on deforestation, helping our partners to set up traceability systems and sustainable agricultural systems. We are also investing in science and research, with 30 million euros for centers of excellency on forests and biodiversity. And our support for forest partnerships will continue. We are also mobilizing innovative financing mechanisms to best support sustainable development in our partner countries. Our Global Green Bond Initiative, part of EU's Global Gateway, is one good example of our agenda for prosperity, respectful of people and the planet. Our work will continue, with multilateral development banks mobilizing funds for investments that are climate-friendly and nature-positive. And we are open to exchange on how best to reward the services that these basin forests deliver for the humankind and for the whole planet. We have so much to gain from halting deforestation. It slows the impacts of climate change, already so harsh here in Africa. It preserves the nature that so many cultures depend on, and it brings economic and social benefits. So by cleaning up supply chains and delivering products that are deforestation-free, countries are answering consumer demands and creating competitive advantage for their producers. Dear Excellencies, dear friends, our goal is building bridges to a sustainable future, lasting partnership for lasting change, safeguarding tropical forest basins for generations to come for this planet.
Carlos Nobre's research in the Amazon talks about rivers in the sky and how clouds carry water, the lifeblood of this planet, from the forest back into the mountains as they fall as rain. I know that you are looking at how such processes play in the Congo Basin. This South-South cooperation that you are building is also creating rivers in the skies, rivers that carry hope, rivers that carry across basins, across nations, and across continents. Hope that great nations can work together to conserve, to protect, and to restore living, breathing wonders that serve this entire world. Hope that humanity can lead and unite to end the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Hope that we can build a better life for all in harmony with nature. My thanks, Mr. President, and all distinguished presidents here and all distinguished delegates for this great endeavor. And be sure that we at the United Nations system will be there to support you.
The UAE will be hosting COP28 next month, where we will provide a platform to bring nature into the center of the global climate change agenda. The World Climate Action Summit on December 1st and 2nd will bring together heads of state and government alongside business leaders, heads of international organizations and civil society to join scale up climate action, and catalyze on a growing trajectory to achieve shared prosperity. COP28 will build on existing commitments. We will focus on spotlighting breakthroughs on political leadership and financing to protect and sustainably manage critical ecosystems, in particular forests, mangroves, water, and the oceans, framed by the landmark Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on Forests and Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement. Excellencies, the science is clear. There is no Paris Agreement without nature, yet there is a way. There is no pathway to keep 1.5 degrees alive without healthy ecosystem and thriving local communities. And this does not have to come at a cost to development. Our economies and livelihoods rely on nature. We are interdependent. But without action to ensure that we do not overexploit these critical ecosystems, we risk losing them, creating huge social and economic costs for ourselves. But we all know this already, and this is why important commitments have been made.
The success of this summit and the decisions will be materialized if supported by a specific vision on funding issues and mechanisms. And my dear sister Arlette has been fighting for having that as an integral part for the declaration today. And we also collectively in COP27 made sure that the decision to reform the international financial system and the United Nations Specialized Agency and the MDB should be attained, and we look forward to that in COP28. That is the least could be done to serve a just climate, environmental, and energy transition that would meet the needs of the sustainable development and would serve also for that declaration to be out and implemented as Your Excellencies and President would wish to do so. We look forward to the success of this summit. And again, I would like to convey the appreciation, the thanks, and the greeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, confirming that Egypt will not hesitate or delay to participate, assist, and support all steps that would serve development, prosperity, peace of all the people of the three continents, especially on Africa and the whole world.
Les fonctionnaires du protocole afin que dans la salle. Merci.
è responsabile do Flores, da onde
Ah, sim.